What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Gambling Addicts. The giveaway is available. It's always available. I haven't got the templates this week. I didn't last week either. But if you're a regular listener of the channel, you pretty much know how to enter the giveaway. And if you don't, I'll quickly tell you. You have to give me 5 fighters who are going to win on the night. You have to select the round and method of how they're going to win. And your 5th pick must be the main event. So 4 fighters who are going to win, method and round, and then your 5th pick, main event, who you want, round and method. I love all of you. Thank you for supporting the channel and enjoy the breakdown.
And welcome to episode 31 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and as always, I am here with my co-host Leyton, and we are here to break down ESPN 10 Plus or ESPN Plus 10 or something like that from Rochester, New York. Rafael dos Anjos versus Kevin Motown Phenom Lee at 170 pounds. As always, I'm here with my co-host Leyton. What up, buddy? No gassing this week.
No gassing. That was sweet. Okay, so Brazil.
You know, God, let me get my joke next time. No one's here for my jokes. I know they're not funny. Got it. Go ahead.
Brazil.
Brazil.
Talk to me. BJ Penn, Lil Nog, Anderson Silva. All retire? Agree?
Yes, please. Let's. We'll just. It's BJ Penn. Even what happened in the BJ Penn fight is that we saw the best BJ Penn we've seen in the last 9 years, and that is sad. Mm-hmm. And that is sad. That's the whole point. Yeah. So, I mean, he wasn't standing straight up like a chicken, so that's good. Like, I mean, he looked like he didn't get heel hooked. He didn't yelp at all in the fight. We had our yelp in, the Coco main event. But anyways, yeah.
Before we get to that, Lil Nog.
Yeah, Lil Nog.
Wow.
I think I nailed that prediction. I'm pretty sure I said a second round TKO for Span, but it was first round. But I did think the TKO was coming.
Yeah, nasty. Real nasty.
Yeah, Span looks really good, man. He's really good. He got really close on that submission as well.
Yeah,
I mean
he's so
arms,
strong,
and his arms are deceptively long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's even deceptively long. Maybe you look at him and you see, but he doesn't quite have the torso and legs of John Jones, but his arms, I think, may be longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, either way, they were able to nearly wrap up that submission. Great. I'm really glad that he was able to go into Brazil and be strong. And speaking of strong, we'll just move on to Cannonier.
Wow. I nailed that one. Round 1 TKO.
It's so strong, and props to Cannonier, and it's appearing that Anderson Silva, it's not super serious, at least not to require surgery. It still could be a serious injury, maybe just avoiding surgery at 44.
Mm-hmm.
But just one thing I want to address is something that goes back to like Tyron Woodley versus Carlos Condit and several other fights that end in leg kicks for some reason. Unless it's an accumulation and your name is Barboza, you don't seem to get credit for a leg kick finish if it happens. It's always, it got him injured, or, that's not a legit finish for some reason. I'm just confused at why that seems to be a perception amongst a lot of fight fans I seem to come across with regards to Cannonier. He doesn't seem to be getting the credit he deserves for this.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be calling it, an accident. When he went to kick his leg, was he trying to hurt his leg, or was he trying to make his leg feel good with those kicks?
Exactly. I mean, most people expected the TKO to come with the hands, but as far as I'm concerned, that calf kick right under the knee as well, it was perfect.
I mean, that says something about the confidence of Cannonier to be against a stand-up guy like Anderson, still feel comfortable enough to throw those leg kicks.
Mm-hmm.
He's not been known for his leg kicks, and he threw it hard enough to hurt Anderson Silva's leg. Anderson Silva's been leg kicked by a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm. One thing we didn't mention before podcast that we'd speak about that I want to mention right now. What did you think of the reception Cannonier got after that fight? Did you see all those boos?
Yeah, that post-fight interview was honest. I mean, there are a few really great ones on the night. Clay Guida's also was hilarious, trying to get a BJ Penn chant started with a bunch of people who just didn't want, they didn't want, like, they weren't behind Clay Guida. And it was just, but yeah, Cannonier just kind of standing there. And
It was chilling.
I felt for him, man.
Mhm.
I thought it was a pretty great response, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
just breathing it all in. Just wow.
he knows what he did, and he knows that how hard he's worked. So, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely a great statement for him. I'd like to see him. I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying Derek Brunson next. That makes no sense to me at all.
Mhm. I feel that.
Like, but does that make sense to you?
I mean, both guys just got a win, so kinda. But I'd have to take a look at the rankings and take a
Yeah,
look.
I'd like to see him a little bit ahead of Brunson. Not to do MMA math, but Brunson
Mhm.
lost to Silva, and Cannonier beat Silva handily.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, but Brunson and Cannonier wouldn't be the worst fight. But either way, on to the co-main event, which Volkanovski fought perfectly,
Mhm.
absolutely perfectly.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that I'm now that I mean, there was no way they could have robbed him of that decision.
30-27 across the board in Brazil against Aldo. Um,
Lovely
I,
performance.
I wish those could have been odds before the fight because I'm sure they would have been very elevated. I
Mhm.
I just wouldn't have predicted. I mean, he was so and or Aldo also was very inactive, but the inactivity has to do with his dance partner.
Mhm.
Volkanovski was doing a lot of tricky stuff with regards to his movement, with feints,
The calf
keep
kicks too. You mentioned the calf kick with Cannonier. The Volkanovski calf kick was money that first round, and even
yeah,
the second round. Just
calf kicks, calf kicks, calf kicks. Like
Mhm.
everybody needs to be learning them at this point. Fighter I was hanging out with a few weekends ago, I won't name names, pointed out that the weakest part of his game was his kicks, particularly his leg kicks, and he said he knew he just had to throw more of them. So I mean, it's a huge part of the game now. I think leg kicks and teep kicks have to, whether it's to the body or to the head, I think
Mhm.
have to be implemented by more and more fighters.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Volkanovski looked good. Then second straight week, Black Magic is trying to creep in a little bit here, creep
Yeah.
back. As it's 2 straight weeks where I've gotten the co-main event wrong, and this week, that first round, Rose looked great, was piecing up Jessica,
Mhm.
and I held on to Kimura too long, went for a ride, and got cracked on her head, and put out. But it was a great fight. Respect to Andrade.
Mhm. She's a
I,
warrior. I
I
mean,
want,
those calf kicks added up. I
yeah,
mean, in the second round, Rose, she
again,
didn't look tired, but those calf kicks added up, and then the finish was brutal.
they take away from your foundation. They take away from your ability to keep your feet on the ground. They take
Yeah.
away from your ability to plan and strike. They take away from your ability to move. All things that Rose required immensely in that fight and was using great, but was one of 5 rounds. And again, a big theme of all these fights seemed to be leg kicks, of these last three at least, in very different ways in each one. One was finished by leg kicks, one was finished because of leg kicks, and one was decided because of leg kicks, essentially. So,
So
um,
basically, Brazil was a night of calf kicks. Seems right. Seems
yeah.
legit.
And not one bad decision by Brazil, so we need to point that out because
Yeah, that's a legit point.
yeah, not one, not a one.
Great
So
judging.
yeah,
Great judging on the night.
really good judging, and yeah, I think my prediction of 2 Brazilians being retired is correct.
Mhm.
I do think at least two. I think Anderson somehow hangs on and fights again, just because he doesn't. I don't know who they put him against now, but either way, this is the last card for a couple weeks here. We finally get a little bit of a break before going into June and having one every single, I believe, weekend in June.
Mhm. And I will say, the card we come back to, I am looking forward to that card so much, man. That European card is so lit. The Sweden card is the card I'm talking about, and it looks so good, man. Literally,
Yeah.
I'm going to be, after this podcast, literally, I'm just going to look forward to that breakdown.
Just taking a quick little look now, and that that Mr. Finland versus Chris Fishgold fight is a battle for my heart.
Exactly. Amir Khan is great.
I love Amir Khan. I am very confused, and I know. Anyways,
Yeah, just move.
Yeah, sorry. Let's move on to this card starting on. It's on Saturday, May 18th from Rochester, New York. We are starting at the 145 division between Julio Arce and Julian Juicy J. Erosa, a favorite on this UFC Gambling Addicts podcast, we'll say, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be breaking down Julian Erosa. Juicy J is 22-7 overall with 10 TKOs, 9 submissions. He's 0-2 in his second stint in the UFC. I believe he was 0-1 and got cut pretty quick in his first stint, so 0-3 overall. His 2 losses coming back into the UFC. He hasn't gotten any favors so far. Not that you get favors in the UFC, but they came to Devontae Smith by first round KO, which is how Devontae Smith has won all his fights in the octagon so far, I believe. And Grant Dawson, who actually it ended up being a pretty good fight. And Julian showed me quite a bit from the bottom to keep Dawson really uncomfortable, actually. And I think Erosa knows his back's totally against the wall here. I think he's got to get in Arce's face, in my opinion, and really make this a stand-up affair. I think for the most part. And by getting in his face, I don't mean get close. I mean just he's got to stay controlling where the fight's taking place, controlling the center of the octagon. I think is a very big key for Julian here. He'll be the way bigger guy, way longer guy. I believe he's about 6 foot, but maybe I'm mistaken on that. But I'll take a look here in a second. But
he is. I'd say it's roughly 5'11", 6 foot. Yeah,
he's a big guy. Yeah, he's 6'1". Let's say 6'1", actually.
Oh, I didn't want
to check it, but yeah, 6'1", and Julio Arce is one of the smaller guys at 145. I believe he's around 5. He's 5'7". So. We have a frame issue here, potentially. And Erosa, I also thought looked, like I said, pretty capable on the ground against Dawson, although Dawson was a much more heavy top control than I would imagine Julio Arce would be. With all due respect to Julio Arce's grappling game, I think Julio Arce is a little craftier than dominant. And I'm actually going to take Erosa in this one with his back against the wall to have his best octagon performance in 4 appearances in the UFC. This is going to be his best one. So, and he's going to need it. And I'm going to actually take the finish in the 3rd round by TKO. So I think this could be a war. I think it could end up bloody. Maybe I'm thinking that because I know Arce and Dan Ige had that bloody fight. So maybe it sticks in my head. It's just one of those more memorable fights for me from the last couple of years. But I think Julian is going to be the bigger and stronger guy in there and more desperate also. And I think it's going to play his advantage. So, yeah, 3rd round TKO for Erosa.
Nice. Okay, so Julio Arce comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. Wins over Dan Ige and Daniel Tamer. Then he lost to Shaman Moraes, which was a split decision. I would have said he won that one. Even a split win would have been right, but he got the split loss.
Split. Those split decisions sometimes really are that.
Yeah, literally, it was a really close fight. And you mentioned a lot of blood for Julio Arce and the Dan Ige fight. There was a lot of blood in that one as well. So, I would assume this fight's going to have some blood in it. Your breakdown was, I'd agree with most of it.
Except for the victor.
Yeah, I feel Julio Arce is going to be able to get takedowns in this fight. He looks to mix it up. Julian Erosa's going to have to stuff a few takedowns, just like he had to against Grant Dawson. It didn't go that well for him. He did look decent in the 2nd and even in the 3rd, but the story of that fight really was Grant Dawson being able to continue to get the takedown even when he was tired. But I do agree with you. He did look like he could, handle himself on his back. So yeah, it's a good matchup. It's a close fight on paper. And yeah, Julian Erosa does need to win this one, but I'm going to take Julio Arce to get a decision. I think he gets the takedowns, and that's basically the story of the fight again. So yeah, we'll be disagreeing to start the card.
Well, fair enough. I think most will be agreeing with you when I take a look at the odds here. Minus 600 for Julio Arce.
That's crazy.
That's insane to me. I am more than happy to throw down a few bucks onto the Erosa, just out of pure psychology, desperation, and he's got a huge frame. If he can make that cut and be able to replenish, I mean, he's going to be the bigger guy in there by 15 pounds or more.
Yeah. Well, I did take Erosa against Devontae Smith, if it makes you feel any better.
That does. I do remember that. That's one of the reasons I'm only down 10 now. Thank you. But yeah, with Erosa, honestly, I really do feel confident in the pick. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
I think those odds are a little heavy. I think Erosa will gain a lot from that last fight with Dawson. Dawson is a way stronger takedown artist than Arce. And also 10 pounds heavier. So we'll see. But I'm not going to be putting Erosa in too many parlays, but yeah. I mean, at plus 445, I'm more than happy to take a shot at him.
Sounds fair. Okay, so yeah, moving on to Trevin Giles versus Zach Cummings, and I'll be breaking down Trevin. Okay, so he comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. It's been a year and a half since we last saw him. He's just a well-rounded 185er. He has very, very strong top control if he takes you down. He's just a very measured guy fighting a guy who's, could be considered a veteran in Zach Cummins. But yeah, Trevin Giles, a year and a half since we've seen him. He's very measured on the feet. He doesn't look to headhunt. He takes his time. It's another close fight on paper, and most likely another close fight in the octagon. But I'm gonna take Trevin Giles. There's been a lot of guys recently who have, had these 2 years off. Even last week and the Russia card where it's 2 years off, a year and a half, and some come back and look great like Mustafa Eve, and some come back and don't look too good. Mitch recently in Canada. But yeah, I'm going to take Trevin Giles to get a decision.
Okay. I will be breaking down Mr. Zach Cummings, fighting out of Glory MMA, who also has a few other fighters fighting on this card, which is always something I look to. I think it's pretty relevant. They also have Meg Anderson and Grant Dawson fighting on this card, so fighting later on. Zach Cummings is he's 34 now. Looks like he's 44, but 22-6 overall with 5 TKOs, 11 submissions. So a little more of a grappler than anything else. But he's definitely a crafty guy. He's 7-3 in the UFC, so kind of surprising record for me at least. And he's coming off a pretty close decision win against his MMA mirror in a lot of ways, and Trevor Hot Sauce Smith.
And that was his first fight at 185, right?
I believe so, yes. This was coming off a really close split decision loss at 170 to Michel Prazeres. And honestly, Cummings looked a little underwhelming in that fight to me and a little bit undersized.
I'd agree.
So that's something I'm kind of looking at moving forward here. And like I say, he's a crafty fighter. I think he has surprising power in his strikes. And a really good grappling game when he's on. And I think this is a fight where he's fighting a guy who's similar to him, just a little more athletic and effective, I think, potentially, Giles. So I think that's going to be a difference. I think this is another really close potential war. And I could see his submission game being the difference, but I'm going to take Giles to be able to avoid that and get a decision win. So we're going to agree on Trevin here. And the odds, pretty close, minus 145 for Trevin. plus 125 for Cummings coming back there. So
Yeah, that's decent. I'll have Trevin in a couple parlays for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
I like that. I like that low price because I think Trevin could be a little more of a favorite than that. But the
Yeah.
lack of activity maybe in comparison, but we'll see.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, and I'll move us on to. Oh man, this is not the fight of the night. Ed Short Fuse Herman, and Patrick Durkin, I believe is his nickname, Cummins. I will be breaking down Ed Herman here, the 38-year-old former Ultimate Fighter contestant. Is 23-14 overall, 13 submissions and 60 KOs amongst his 23 finishes. He's 10-11-1 in the UFC. So has now dipped underneath 500. The best guys he's beaten were Tim Boach and Rafael Natal in those 23 fights. So losses to guys like Talis Laitis, Derek Brunson, his last three coming to Nikita Krylov, CB Dalloway, and then Jean Vellante. Or Jean Viante, whatever it is. Yeah, and he hadn't fought in over a year before losing that split decision to Viante, so I really question how much he has left. And when you've lost to Dalloway and Jean in your last two, I may say it's time to stop. I still think Herman's still good enough to win this fight and get a decision possibly, but I honestly think Cummings ended up out-wrestling him and landing some ground and pound and stopping him in the second, I'll say. So I'll give Cummins the stoppage by TKO round 2.
Nice. I pretty much agree with everything you said there. Okay, so Pat Cummins comes into this fight 6-6 inside the UFC. He's beat some good guys. He's lost to some great guys. So, yeah. This is the type of fight where, this could have been put on the Brazil card. Like, this is old-timer versus old-timer. Which guy is slightly better than the other? Anything can happen. I believe both guys are 38, 39. But yeah, I just see Pat Cummins being a little sharper everywhere and even mentally. If you're losing split decisions to Jean Vellante, then, you've really got to question, when am I going to hang up the gloves? In all fairness to the UFC, they could have done a dirty one on Ed Herman here, or even Pat Cummins. They could have gave either guy a Ryan Spann, and we just saw what happened to Lil Nog. So credit to the UFC for putting an old timer up against another old timer. So it's a really hard fight to break down because both guys are coming towards the end of their career, and who's just going to be there a little more on the night? It's hard to say. But if I had to pick, I'd say, Pat Cummins probably gets a couple takedowns. And he's got very heavy hands himself. So, yeah, I'll take Pat Cummins via decision.
Okay. Pat Cummins, minus 250 favorite, plus 195 for Ed Herman.
Oh, that's a little steep on Pat. I mean, minus 250?
That's what it opened at.
Wow, maybe minus 150. I mean, his price and Trevin's could swap around. That would make more sense.
What's that?
If Pat Cummins' price was Trevin's price and Trevin's price was Pat's price, that would make more sense.
I don't agree. I think Trevin has a much tougher fight with Cummins than Herman with... Herman, this is partially an opponent thing. I hate to say it, but I think it's partially an opponent thing. But yeah, it's fair. I mean, I feel comfortable in it, but I've also fallen in love with other very average veterans in the UFC before and prices around this and been surprised. Pat Duffy, Joe Duffy. Sorry, not Pat Duffy.
That was a great performance from Mark. I love that.
Yeah. So, but let's move on to a much better fight here. Yeah. At 155 between Grant Dawson and Michael Trizano. I will be breaking down, I believe, Mike. Who am I breaking down?
Mike Trizano. Or
I'm
do you want me
breaking
to
up.
go ahead with Grant?
Go ahead with Grant.
Okay, so Grant Dawson. We were speaking about him a few minutes ago. He's 1-0 inside the UFC. And in his debut against Julian Erosa, we said he got the takedown. He's pretty relentless in the takedown. This is another really close fight on paper, and it's probably going to be a very close one in the octagon. This is striker versus grappler. Obviously, Grant Dawson can strike as well, and Mike Trizano is able to grapple, but this is primarily grappler versus striker. So, usually I side with the grappler, which would be Grant Dawson here. But I've doubted Mike Trizano now for like his last 3 fights, and I'm just done doubting this guy. This guy has, obviously I underestimated him. His stand-up is very decent. And like I said, he's able to grapple. So the story of the fight for me is going to be Grant Dawson needs the takedowns like he did against Julian Erosa. But maybe he's improved his top game where he doesn't need to keep going for takedown. Maybe one will be enough. But yeah, I'm not going to doubt Mike Trizano anymore. So I'll take Mike Trizano to be the better guy on the feet and win a decision. I'm taking a lot of decisions here.
Fair enough. I also have doubted Mike Trizano quite a bit. So I will be breaking down the lone wolf, Mike Trizano. Maybe this is why he's called the lone wolf. Maybe he has a lot of doubters. He's 8-0 with 2 TKOs, 2 subs. Took a split decision win to win his season of the Ultimate Fighter. And then served up that with another surprising split decision win over Luis Pena. And so fights out of Team Tiger Schulman, whereas Lyman Good and others trained. So he's a pretty decent guy. He hasn't been too tested here, but he's facing another guy who's in his now second fight in the UFC. So he's now going to have his third fight with kind of an untested guy inside the octagon. But he's got a bit of a karate style with his striking, but he's really is decently well-rounded. I think the difference is going to be Dawson's relentless pace and overall strength in wrestling. And I'm looking for Dawson to win a pretty clear decision here. And look pretty similar maybe to the Julian Erosa approach here. Hopefully he's maybe evolved the stand-up a little bit more and worked on maybe looking for submission and not always position necessarily. So maybe just a little more assertiveness in there in the second fight. Maybe he'll look a little more comfortable. So, yeah, we're going to disagree here. I'll take Dawson by decision.
Fair opinion. Fair breakdown, fair opinion. What's the odds?
Yeah. Trizano is the slight favorite. Actually, pretty decent favorite. More of a favorite than Giles. Minus 150.
Wow. Okay, so he's been an underdog most of his career. So, people switching sides. I like it.
I think people seeing Grant Dawson in his debut, I'm pretty sure Grant Dawson was close to a 400 or 300 favorite in his debut against Erosa, and did kind of struggle against the Erosa. So it looks like maybe that's giving people, by judging by the odds, considering Erosa is a plus 450 underdog, looks like the odds makers are seeming to think that's more of a detriment on Dawson than a compliment to Erosa. So I think that Dawson is, as much as these people are being critics of Dawson, Dawson's going to be his biggest critic. I think he's going to really be motivated to come out here and show who he really is more. And I think that he had some octagon jitters in his debut. So,
fair enough.
But if Trizano wins this fight, I want to see him fight someone who has more than one fight in the UFC. Because that's the next test I'd like to see is him against someone with a little experience. If he does win this fight. But close fight, and it's our second disagreement in 4?
Second disagreement, yep.
Beautiful. You want to lead us into the next one?
Yep. Okay, so Michel Pereira versus Danny Roberts at 170. I don't know too much about Michel Pereira, but then I found out who this guy is. If anyone can remember, the viral clip of the guy doing backflips on his grounded opponent, that's this guy. This guy is like 5 times more crazier than Mareb. Like, this guy is just nuts. He'll throw spinning stuff. He'll do backflips. Yeah, he's just a mental Brazilian. Put it that way. So yeah, he's making his debut against Danny Roberts. I don't really know what to expect. I'd assume Danny Roberts is the better boxer. He also has good grappling himself. You know, kind of hung with Claudio Silva in London a few weeks ago. I was also at his fight in Germany, which was against the guy who recently knocked out Boston Salmon. Was that?
Yep.
No, it wasn't that guy. It wasn't that guy. David Zawada or something like that. Who's a well-rounded guy who was able to grapple. So yeah, Danny Roberts hung with him, got his own takedowns.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, overall for well-roundedness, I'd say Danny Roberts is the more well-rounded guy. But he has been brutally knocked out with a head kick against Nordine Taleb. So maybe this crazy style for Michel Pereira is a good thing here. Or maybe Danny Roberts just has an absolute masterclass and makes the guy look completely ridiculous. So it's either one or the other. I'm going to say Danny Roberts makes him look ridiculous. He's from the UK as well. You know, I'm not being biased, but I'd love to see Danny Roberts knock him out. So I'm going to take Danny Roberts via TKO in round number 1.
All right. Nice breakdown there. I will be breaking down Mr. Hot Chocolate Danny Roberts, the 6'1", 170er. He's 31, 16-4 overall, 7 TKOs, 5 submissions, 5-3. Although no real notable wins in there, really. And against Claudio Silva, he was doing decent from what I can recall, but then began grappling with Claudio for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to, what do you think, a submission by Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, he was on a 2-point winning streak, though. So he's not bad, but he's just not had that trademark breakout win yet inside the octagon. He's had some exciting fights, but not just that fight where you're really like, wow, Danny Roberts is that guy.
Mm-hmm. His IQ is quite questionable. But then again, so is this Brazilian's IQ. So it's...
I don't think that will be a factor here. I see this being another... There's a lot of really close fights on this card, which could lead to some more decisions. And I'm taking another decision here with Roberts. I'm going to give him the win. I just think octagon experience is a difference. I think Roberts is going to be the more willing to mix it up when he needs to. And but Pereira can really be crazy and, land some really impressive shots. He's got a lot of finishes in his career. I believe he's got like 22 finishes of his 26 fights.
Wow.
Around there. So, and Roberts is 12 of 16 in his wins. So we'll see. I think it's a close fight, but I think Roberts takes it. I don't think Pereira is going to do any flips or anything. So that's a bold prediction. Roberts, another minus 250, plus 210 for Pereira.
That's a little bit crazy.
A little bit too steep for me.
Yeah.
Not too interested in taking that in too many of mine, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you.
2 or 3 on here that should be about divided in half of what they are with regards to the. So, but fair enough. Roberts, I'm glad he's the favorite. I think he should be. But we are moving on to the next fight. This is at 155 between Desmond the Predator Green and Charles Air Jourdain, one of my favorite nicknames in MMA currently. So I will be breaking down the Predator, Desmond, who finally, I feel like maybe, well, we'll see, I guess, what this guy is making his debut, but I think finally getting a little bit of a favor in the octagon in his 7th fight. And I'll explain that in a minute, what I mean. But he's the 29-year-old is 22-8 overall. 6 TKOs and 1 submission in those 22 wins. So 15 decisions, I believe, by my math. 3-3 in the UFC. He's got wins over Ross Pearson, Gleison Tebow, and Josh Emmett at 155. Josh Emmett, which not still a good guy, but definitely is not the same as he's been at 145. while losing to Rustam Khabilov, Michel Prazeres, and Mirabek Taisimov in his most recent fight. His most recent fight before the Pearson fight, I should say. And all those being by decision. So the guy's gotten no favors in his UFC career. And that was maybe until his last fight when he got to fight Ross Pearson. And he ended up finishing Ross Pearson the first with a TKO. So I think that he may look to test the stand-up a little more here, but I think the key is going to be the takedowns here. He's facing a pretty exciting guy on the feet in Charles Jourdain, who has looked more composed in some of his last few fights here. As he's approached UFC, it looks like he's starting to think more about how he has to use more fight IQ. But I look for Desmond to ground him for 3 rounds. I would love to see Green pursue a finish and show some grappling, perhaps. And I do think he has a chance to do so. And I'm actually going to take that with a second-round submission win for Desmond Green.
Nice. Okay, so Charles Jourdain comes into this fight making his octagon debut. I've watched a few.
You didn't say his name. It's Charles Air Jourdain. Air Jordan.
I get it. I see it.
American basketball.
Yeah. Lovely. Okay, so I've seen a few of his fights. I agree with your breakdown pretty much for both sides. I'd say this kid does look very good with his hands. His hands are very, very fast. Technically, he looks pretty decent. Gets a little crazy at times. And by crazy, I mean, he doesn't do backflips. He'll throw like lunging knees, like high knees and spinning back fists and that kind of stuff. If you want to be crazy, you want to throw that kind of stuff. You don't want to do backflips like Pereira. So yeah, looking at this fight, Des Green just got his first TKO in the UFC. We nailed that too. I remember just before that fight, you was like, Des Green's going to get a TKO. I checked the price on it, and it was like 4-1 or something crazy like that.
Yep.
So yeah, obviously I put like 20 quid on that, and that was beautiful. So yeah, is he just going to TKO this guy, or is Des Green going to go back to what he's known for, and that's the, just being a bully when he can be a bully, moving when he wants to move, getting the takedowns, just winning a decision. Looking at it, that could be the case. I could see that happening. But if Des Green doesn't clinch up and doesn't shoot, then it's going to be a very close fight. Because Charles Jourdain is just, his hands are really fast, man. And some of his combinations are just beautiful. He looks so confident in this rise to the UFC. So, it's a really, really tough pick. But yeah, we're going to disagree. I'm going to take Charles here to get a close decision win.
Okay, fair enough. Better put some money down on that, because that is almost a Julian Erosa size, but plus 375 underdog for your Air Jourdain.
Lovely.
And Desmond Green coming back at minus 550. It opened at minus 250. So the odds make it work. Yeah. So Green is getting the majority of the money here for sure. And I have to agree with it. And I don't necessarily agree with the odds being that high. That's a little bit steep. I've also been impressed with Jourdain, but I also do feel that his path to victory is much more difficult and unlikely compared to Green here. And so I think it's a better fight than those odds anticipate, though. So
yeah. Those odds remind me of Antonino.
Yeah, they remind me of Michel Prazeres versus the guy we fought last.
Yeah, and I called that. I called it Nordiv.
Nordiv, yeah. I think that's if we see a similar type of performance, it wouldn't surprise me. I think at times we have seen Green's gas tank falter a little bit in the later rounds. So that it's a very similar matchup and similar odds. So I mean, you believe it, so good for you, and I don't exactly completely disbelieve it, but I still am taking Green. So moving on to the ladies at 135, we have Aspen Ladd and Sijara Eubanks. I will be breaking down Aspen Ladd. The 24-year-old is 7-0 with 5 TKOs and a sub. She's not look like the most imposing fighter when you first see her, but this girl can really fight. And I've mistakenly underestimated her in a couple fights. I picked even Evinger against her.
Wow.
And yeah, I did. I just was completely wrong. I thought Evinger was going to be able to use a little bit of the size just because Aspen looks a little small for the weight, but she's not weak for the weight. As a result, I don't think she cuts a whole lot to get to 135. And I think it benefits her, actually, because she carries the power. She used to fight at 115. So she's been a little bit all over the place. Her and Sijara have fought before. They fought in 2017 in Invicta. Aspen looked like a Terminator in that one, to me. I mean, she just walked through the punches Sijara threw. And it was a 30-27 pretty clear decision win. With Sijara, this is her first fight at 135 in the UFC. So I think Ladd's going to look out to come and show that she deserved that fight with Holly Holm that was taken from her for some reason. And I see her using her wrestling and getting this fight to where she has an advantage and getting the finish this time and by TKO in the second for Aspen.
Nice. Okay, so Eubanks comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. Previously fighting on the Ultimate Fighter, and like you said, in Invicta. It's a rematch. Eubanks lost the first fight. Looking at both girls, you could say both girls have been impressive recently. I'd expect Aspen Ladd to obviously, you look at that fight against Tonya Evinger, and the only worry you would have had for Aspen Ladd is Tonya Evinger, just, pure veteran, really gritty, she's maybe get a takedown or two herself, but Aspen Ladd just walked right through her. So, you'd assume Aspen Ladd here is going to be the stronger grappler. If she gets a hold of Eubanks, then, Eubanks could have a long night. As for, going technique for technique, leg kicking distance, I'd expect Eubanks to have more volume and look to win that way. Keep it technique for technique, use her boxing. It's really, A or B. Aspen Ladd's going to get a hold of her and maul her and really beat her up like that, or Eubanks is going to make it very tough, stuff a few takedowns and look to score herself on the feet. I see it being a very close fight. It's a close fight on paper. I think it's going to be a very close fight in the octagon. And I think if Sijara Eubanks is able to stuff the takedowns, she could make it a long night for Aspen Ladd herself. So, yeah, it's a hard one, but we're going to disagree, and I'm going to take Sijara Eubanks to win a very close decision.
Yeah, I just am not sure how much has changed in 2 years, and particularly with one fighter staying at the specific weight and being more active. I think that is, I don't say this often, but I think that's a misread. I really feel confident. Aspen Ladd's one of my most confident picks of the night.
Okay. Get your parlays on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot. I'm gonna have quite a few, but we'll see. And I'm sure we aren't going to agree on these odds because Aspen's a minus 285 favorite, plus 225 for Eubanks.
Could be a little closer.
Based on history, activity, and just I think overall the matchup Aspen showed in the first one. And but we'll see. I mean, I think that you got to go with your pick. So fair play.
Well, she's only going to go in one parlay, but yeah.
No, I get it. I'm not sure how many parlays I'm really going to have on this card in general. So close. So, but we'll see. We'll see. But that's our fourth disagreement.
Third or no? That's our third.
You picked Jourdain, right?
Yep.
And then you picked, I believe, and then you picked Trizano, and you picked Julio Arce.
Yeah, that's our fourth.
Fourth and sixth. There we go. All right, we are moving on. go ahead and lead us off here.
Okay.
Actually, I'll lead us off. I
Okay.
got us. Um, we were at 155 between Austin Hubbard and Davi Ramos. I just figured it'd make more sense to break down Austin Hubbard first, and I'll be breaking him down. He's making his UFC debut here, 5'10", which I just say is relevant because I believe Davi Ramos is a 5'5" or 5'4", maybe. Maybe you'll be able to, or I can look it up. But either way, Hubbard has fought some at 170, some at 155. He's 10-2 overall, 3 TKOs, 3 submissions. Seems to have pretty good boxing. Like it looks to rip to the body often. Throws pretty hard hooks and some good uppercuts, which he's finished several people with. He likes to go for the takedowns as well and work his top game. But the second thing I mentioned definitely is not going to be the route he looks to go against Davi Ramos, I think, who's pretty much a tank, really tough to take down. When you take him down, has a legit BJJ game. I think the key for Hubbard is to keep Ramos off him, stay out of the grappling exchanges, especially when they're fresh. And he's going to be the taller guy against Ramos. Ramos probably still be a stronger guy, although Hubbard has fought 170, so he could have some good size and strength coming down here. I think Hubbard really should look to push the pace cardio-wise and hope to tire out Ramos by the third round. But I think that it may take a few times, but I'm going to take Davi to get him down and get the submission in. He's just really, really good at that, and I think the experience and overall game will work for Davi, so I'll take Davi by submission, round 2.
Nice. Okay, so Davi Ramos comes into this fight 3-1 inside the UFC. He's 5'8", so he's not the biggest lightweight, but he's quite thick and quite strong. And yeah, you basically highlighted what Davi Ramos is about. Beautiful breakdown. If you've ever seen him fight, you know what he's about. He's looking to shoot pretty quick, and he's looking to sub you. You know, he has very, very, very good jiu-jitsu. And just like you said, you know, he's basically looking to take you down, and then he's securing position, looking for you to make a mistake, and he'll take advantage of the mistake. Like you said, he's very, very good at doing that. Nailed it. So yeah, like you said, the size could be, you know, what keeps Hubbard in the fight. But I just don't think so. I think Davi Ramos is so good at doing what he does. Not a lot of people know who he is. He's quite underrated. But two or three more submissions and people will know what Davi Ramos is about and who he is. So yeah, I'll take a round 1 sub for Davi Ramos.
Okay, fair enough. Minus 450 favorite for Davi, plus 325 for Hubbard. So yeah, I think
it could be a little closer, but like we said, he's very good at doing what he does.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting the respect here. Although it may be a little bit too heavy, I think it's pretty close. So yeah, you want to lead us into? Is this the beginning of the main card?
Nope, that was just the beginning, Davi Ramos. This is the second fight on the main card. This is Charles Oliveira versus Nick Lentz. And I'll be breaking down, another rematch as well. And I'll be breaking down Nick Lentz. Comes into this fight 14 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws. So it's fair to say he's a veteran. It's a really good fight. You obviously know what Charles Oliveira is going to try and do. Having said that, his stand-up is great. So Nick Lentz is going to have to prepare for, you know, just decent head kicks, body kicks, calf kicks. His hands are very fast. For Nick Lentz, you know, grinder, veteran, he'll pretty much compete everywhere you put him. If you put him on the mat, he'll compete. Boxing distance, leg kicking distance, he's going to compete. I don't know if Charles Oliveira can sub him. Obviously he could, but Nick Lentz is, like I said, he's going to compete everywhere. So it's a hard fight to break down in terms of how I think Charles Oliveira is going to win. his stand-up's been very, very good. Obviously, most submissions in the UFC now for he got that two subs ago, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nick Lentz is a grinder. I don't think he gets subbed. I think he's just too defensive all fight. He's waiting for the takedown, and just isn't scoring himself. So I'm going to take Charles Oliveira via decision.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I will be breaking down Bronx. He is 26-8 with 6 TKOs and 18 submissions. 14-8-1 in the UFC. So we got 3 draws between the two here, and I don't even want to do the math on how many fights. Almost 50 fights between the two of them.
A lot.
45 fights or something. Bronx won against a bunch of guys: Jim Miller, Darren Elkins, Jeremy Stevens, Nick Lentz, Miles Jury, Clay Guida. Definitely a submission guy, and I think he'll be looking to do something different here. I do wonder if Lentz can really hurt him on the feet and hold up his subs defense. So I think that Bronx can hurt Lentz on the feet. And I think that I look for Oliveira to throw some potentially flying knees, perhaps, or some, more flashy type of striking techniques, almost inviting the takedown from Lentz and making it a grappling exchange if it has to be. I do think he could sub Lentz also, but anyways, I do favor Bronx in this fight. I don't think it will look much different from their first fight. And I'll take Oliveira for another decision. So,
Nice. Perfect agreement.
Yep. So Oliveira. So with Aspen Ladd in her rematch, she was a 270 favorite. Oliveira in his rematch is a minus 360 favorite.
Wow.
So plus 270 to Nick Lentz. I mean, I believe in Oliveira, but also Oliveira is the kind of guy that if he doesn't finish you, often has trouble in his fights. He's not a guy who maybe goes back and forth and is able to go back and forth again, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're believing in Lentz, give it a shot. I wouldn't argue against it, but Oliveira, that's definitely heavy for me. I feel like it should be about 200 tops.
Mm-hmm. There's some big favorites on this card, man. Real big. And yeah, that's another, it's a tough fight for both guys. Like Nick Lentz, that's a tough fight, and Charles Oliveira is
fought before, but that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? 3 years ago? 5 years ago?
A few. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just Nick Lentz can hang in there with anybody. I know in my breakdown I didn't give him much of a shot.
He's a real grinder, man.
Yeah, they both. Yeah, he's much more of a grinder than Oliveira. Oliveira, I would not describe as a grinder.
Exactly. So if you're Oliveira and you're getting into the third round with Nick Lentz, even if you're 2 rounds up, Nick Lentz is going to be there.
Well, Nick Lentz has shown some gas in these later fights in his career also. So that used to be something you really could count on, but I agree. So, let's move on to the ladies. You want to lead us off?
Yep. Okay, so we have, this is at 145, we have Megan Anderson versus Felicia Spencer. And I'll be breaking down the newcomer. 6-0 as a pro. I've seen her a couple fights. She's fought at lightweight in Invicta and mainly featherweight. I feel like the UFC's just, they're trying to get some new names for the 145 division. It's very shallow at this point. This is a fairly big woman who fights at 145, who's undefeated. It's a fair call-up. Looking at her fights, she looks well-rounded, obviously. She's a big girl. Megan Anderson, obviously, also a very big girl herself. Megan Anderson is still going to be the taller, longer fighter here. And I just, Megan Anderson, she lost to Holly Holm, and it was no one expected her to lose by getting taken down and held down by Holly Holm like that. But since losing that fight, against Kat, she looked good, up until the eye kick.
That's 50 seconds.
Yeah, Megan Anderson, she's a good girl, and despite that loss, I think she's going to compete very well in pretty much every single fight she has from here out. Felicia Spencer, obviously I said she's well-rounded. It's just a shame Megan Anderson is just as well-rounded, if not better. So, yeah, she's going to have the height, reach, and she's a very good girl herself. So I'll take Megan Anderson. I'm going to take her to get a sub in round number 1.
Okay. Submission from Megan Anderson. That's interesting, but I don't see that happening. But Megan Anderson, 6 foot tall, so yeah, she's a tall one. 9-3 overall, 5 TKOs and 2 submissions in her career, so she does have a couple subs. Fair enough. She's 1-1 in the UFC, coming off that weird toenail kick against Kat. So she did hit her, so props to her in that. But she's definitely a big girl for 145. Has some legit finishing ability, particularly on the feet. But sometimes an overall MMA game plan seems to affect her, such as Holly Holm. A couple of her losses in Invicta also were similar types of just overall mixing up the takedowns. So sometimes I think Megan's volume and activity stalls a bit, but I just think she's going to be too big and powerful here. So I'll take actually a decision for Megan Anderson.
Nice.
So not taking the finish, but yeah, I'll take Meg in this one. And she is favorite, not huge favorite, -150.
That's nice. That's refreshing.
For Felicia, so yeah.
Refreshing. It's not a big favorite. It sounds decent.
Yeah. So
she's going in at least 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah, I'll put her in a couple at that price. I like her price, and I like a couple others. Trevin Giles early on, a couple others, but we'll save that for the comments.
I really like Eubanks price, but we won't mention that too much.
Yeah. Because I do not agree. So we'll move on to maybe a fight we disagree on here. Antonio Carlos Shoeface Jr. versus Ian Heinisch. I will be breaking down Shoeface Carlos Jr. for those who are not acclimated. Shoeface is 6'2", 29 years old, fighting out of American Top Team. 7-2-1 in the UFC with 5 rear naked choke finishes, including 3 straight. He hasn't fought in a year in 3 straight rear naked choke finishes. He has 5 straight wins overall against decent competition, particularly his last 4, coming against Marvin Vittori, Eric Spicely, Jack Marshman, and Tim Boach. And the last 3, as I said, he finished by submission. He won his season of the Ultimate Fighter at heavyweight, so he was Cannonier before Cannonier did it, and has made his cut down to 185 smoothly. But so he's similar to Cannonier, except he does it with the grappling. And I really have liked how his size and strength has translated to 185, and he's retained some pretty good speed also. So I think in the past we've seen our heavy grapplers give Shoeface some issues. Faced Pat Cummins at 205 about 4 years ago. Cummins came up with a unanimous decision, just kind of grounded him. So I think this is an excellent matchup of styles. Really tough to call here. And we'll see how much I think Ian has stirred up his submission game. He did have a loss to Marcus Perez by arm triangle before coming into the UFC. And I think how much he's built his stand-up. So I've been back and forth on this one, and I'll be honest, I'm a bigger fan of Shoeface and how he wins this fight here. I think he's able to implement a better stand-up game if it gets to the ground. I think he can threaten with submissions, or if he forces the takedown, self-submit Ian Heinisch. So more ways to win, and just a better overall game plan leads to a second round, and I'll say second round submission win for Shoeface.
Nice. Okay, so Ian Heinisch comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Previously fighting on the Contender Series, where he had a very nice ground and pound finish. Debut against Cesar Ferreira, pretty decent there. He gassed out Ferreira pretty early with relentless pace coming forward, looking for takedowns himself. Was able to defend takedowns too. So yeah, you look at this fight. I said earlier on about Davey Ramos, about how good he was at doing what he does with, taking guys down and looking for a submission, and just how good he is at jiu-jitsu. Antonio Jr. is another guy who's very good at doing that. If he can take you down, chances are, you're going to get subbed. Ian Heinisch himself looks for takedowns when he can. He's a good wrestler, and the stand-up is improving. So yeah, is Ian Heinisch gonna shoot for takedowns here, knowing how good of his opponent is at jiu-jitsu? Maybe or maybe not. You said this fight, the game plan for Antonio. There's more game plan, so more probability for him to win. There's something I like about Ian Heinisch, man. His mentality is different. And I think if he has the right game plan here himself, he could even walk away with a win. So maybe he, looks to keep it on the feet and take down Antonio in the later rounds, or maybe just, I don't know. Ian Heinisch, both guys are going to have a good game plan here. Ian Heinisch, like I said, if he has the right game plan, then he could win. It's a very close fight. I myself have been going back and forth on it, just like you. It's a tough one, man. It's a very tough one. I like Ian Heinisch, man. I'm going to take him to win a very close decision.
Fair enough. I think it should be a pick'em, and it's not. Minus 185 for Shoeface. Plus 160 for Heinisch.
Wow.
So he
was an underdog in his debut, and he's an underdog again here.
Yep. And it's maintained that price it opened at. So we'll see if it moves on. Unfortunately, our co-main event was canceled. Yesterday?
I saw it today, so it could have been yesterday even.
Yeah, it was yesterday or today, but I believe Neil Magny's out with an injury. They're looking for a replacement for Luque. I don't blame anybody who turns down that fight. So maybe Luque can get on a fight card in June. There's plenty. Maybe in Chicago they can find a dance partner for him. But either way, we are on to the main event of the evening between RDA and Lee. So I'll allow you to lead us off. See if the Black Magic is coming back with 3 straight misses, or if I'm going to be able to succumb it here. So
yeah, we're going to hit this one. There's no Black Magic this time. Yeah.
RDA.
Okay, so RDA versus Kevin Lee. I'll break down RDA. Comes into this fight 17 wins, 9 losses in the UFC. I don't really need to give this guy too much of a breakdown. We know how good of a lightweight he was. What I want to speak about here with RDA is how he's been at 170. So, good start to 170. I believe he beat Tarek Safadine, then Robbie Lawler, maybe someone else in between those fights, but it was a good start to 170. And then he ran into Colby Covington and Usman. And you can see, if you go back and watch his career at 170 here, you can see he's losing to wrestlers. He's losing to guys who can take him down. He's losing to guys who are stronger, bigger, and able to go 25 minutes. The question is, Kevin Lee, 155er himself, good wrestler, strong wrestler, big 155er, also stepping up to 170. So RDA here has his third strong wrestler. So it's a question of, RDA's lost that way now twice. Is he going to lose that way again? Now, the question for me is, Kevin Lee, I believe he is able to get the takedowns. He's able to grapple. The question is, how long can he do it for? Now, we saw he had problems with his conditioning against Al. Now, I believe there was one huge mistake in that fight. The huge mistake from Kevin Lee was he spent the whole round 1 and he didn't shoot once. He didn't shoot once in round 1. Now, is that going to be the same thing here for Kevin Lee? He knows how RDA loses. He knows he's stronger and bigger. And RDA knows this as well. He knows he has to avoid getting taken down. So the question is, can Kevin Lee get that takedown and do damage in the first round? That's the key for me with Kevin Lee. Now, it's a hard decision. I believe he has a new corner or a new camp. I'm not too sure on that. Maybe you'll let us know. But I believe he does. I believe he does understand that he needs to take down in the first round. I believe he understands that he can't stand with RDA and go technique for technique. So yeah, I'm looking for Kevin Lee to use his intelligence here, shoot for the takedown in round 1, shoot as quick as you can, secure top position as quick as you can, and look for the mistake of RDA, whether that be posturing up and landing ground and pound, whether that be trying to get the body triangle at the back. I don't know what it is, but I want to see Kevin Lee be active in the first round on top, be successful with a quick takedown, and do damage in the first round. So I'm going to take Kevin Lee via submission in round number 1.
All right. Yeah, I will say just right away, the difference in that fight with Al, I believe, was mentality. And I think that Kevin came out in the first round of that fight looking to make a point, looking to show how much better of a fighter he was, how in his debut against Al, that wasn't the same. And now he came so close in his debut. He felt he won his debut. And he just came out overconfident in the wrong parts of his game and looking to prove a message for some reason. So he abandoned his takedowns, I think, for a lot of that fight, and it was the difference. So he could have been fighting Cowboy last week. Instead, he's fighting RDA this week at 170. So he's 17-4 overall. He's fighting out of Extreme Couture now, so that is a grappling heavy camp. So I think that's encouraging. Hearing him talk this week leading up, there's not a lot of trash talk with RDA. He definitely respects him. It's a similar mentality to, I think, what he went in there with against Barboza, and it's a similar scenario. Barboza had a few grapplers before Kevin. The blueprint was laid out, and Kevin followed it brilliantly against Barboza and stopped him in the 5th round. So I look for a similar type of approach here against RDA, and I think that that's the real key. I think that Al's really gotten Kevin focused. Not that he wasn't before, but even more so focused on what kind of fighter he needs to be, and it's caused him to get more focused on fighting and less on talking. So he has to know that in this fight, his goal is to get takedowns, maintain calm control, cage pressure on RDA for 5 rounds. I look forward to seeing how he looks now having to cut to 15 more pounds. He may have found a new division depending on the result, but I'm actually going to take Lee to get a decision. I'm not sure he's going to be able to finish RDA. So RDA is going to be quicker on the feet. I looked for RDA to use leg kicks, but those could open up takedowns. And so I will take Kevin Lee. So we do agree, but Kevin Lee by decision.
I will say I'm happy you're taking a decision, because my only worry is the 3rd and 4th and 5th round. Those rounds, they worry me with, how many leg kicks have added up, how many weren't takedowns, and I'm confident that you see your boy winning a decision. So
look at the lack of leg kicks from Barboza in his fight, and when he did throw leg kicks, what resulted. So I hope so. I think that the coaching for Kevin Lee has to be, he throws a leg kick, you're sticking on that leg like glue every time.
Maybe not our style with Cowboy. Hopefully not that kind of style.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But, I feel pretty confident. Kevin, he's one of my more confident picks of the night. I will make no secret about it. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Lee. That last loss to Al definitely hurt my feelings a little bit, but this isn't about feelings here. This is really how I see the fight going. There's a clear blueprint, and Kevin has shown in the past he's able to follow it better than his predecessors. So I think he looked better against Barboza than Khabib did. And Kevin not focused on anybody. He's focused on himself more in this fight, and I think the switch of camps will do him good. So Yeah, we
Nice.
agree.
And the odds?
Yeah, the odds are basically a pick 'em. I'm seeing anywhere from even money to -110 for Kevin, -120 for RDA. So RDA is the favorite.
Very, very
It's
slight. Wow.
So I hope it keeps heading that way, and I'll wait a few days to put some money onto Kevin because I'm confident with Kevin in this fight. Yeah, we'll see. He seems to say he's going to weigh in at 165. I hope he weighs in at 171. So there's no reason to do otherwise, but we'll see. This
Fight
is
of the night?
definitely, yeah, solid. It's easier to pick a not fight of the night. I know I've said that before, but I'm gonna go with. I don't know how often this even happens, but I'll go with an upset fight of the night. And I'm going to go with the first fight of the night, Julio Arce versus Julian Erosa.
Nice.
I think it's going to be a super exciting tone setter for the night. Maybe as a result of that fight being exciting, other fights later on will be more exciting and maybe may bury the lead a little bit. So, but I'll say that will be, yeah, I'll go with that as my fight of the night. Yeah.
My fight of the night. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Des Green, Charles Jourdain. I'm gonna say Des Green realizes that the takedown isn't on round one, and he has to try to get a TKO, and it's gonna become an amazing war.
I'm gonna save the comments some time. Leyton and Aaron both really want their big upset to be an exciting fight of the night, so they pick that as a fight of the night. For the more sane people, they'll probably end up picking something like the main event, or maybe
like Charles Oliveira.
yeah, those are solid picks too. I think that we have a little bit of a subconscious. We're picking our big upset of the night to be the fight of the night. I'll at least say I'm in my subconscious. I won't judge yours, bro. But either way,
if Des Green gets the takedown, then maybe not. But
Trizano could be a really great fight too. Danny Robertson, Pereira, if Pereira decides to be weird. I mean, Ladd and Eubanks. Honestly, anything but Ed Herman and Cummins.
That's going to be fight of the night now.
If that's fight of the night, I will. Yeah. Well, fair enough. Then you can thank me because I just controlled the fate. There's no way that was going to be fight of the night before I said something.
Imagine if Aspen Ladd Sajara Eubanks is fight of the night.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Okay. I'm ready to sign off.
Thank you. If you listen this far, you're my mother probably, so thanks, Mom. But everybody else, enjoy the fights, leave the comments, enter the giveaway, listen to Lane's little spiel at the beginning. If you're going to comment, just add a second comment with your picks. You might as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the fights, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for the card from Sweden.
Yep. Lovely. I second all of that. Beautiful. Peace out.